Hi, everyone. Thanks for attending today's webinar. This is Allison Dwyer with CQG, and I am the marketing specialist here. Today we have our Chief of Staff, Alli Brennan, who will be giving an intro on CQG's OTC capabilities, how our matching core works, and some exciting new features that we've been working on. If you do have any questions throughout the webinar, please put them into the Q&A off to the right-hand side, and we will address them at the end of the presentation. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Alli.
Thanks so much, Allison. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today. I'm excited to give you all an overview of CQG's over-the-counter trading capabilities, which we've been working on since last year in a couple different areas, servicing a few of our partners and customers that have been looking for more easy to use and kind of easy to disseminate to customers ways of transacting in the over-the-counter markets. So we've built a few things, and today I'm going to walk you through all of the stuff that we've built for various partners that really kind of translate several different marketplaces. I'll walk you through the CQG matching core, which is the infrastructure behind how we make all of this possible. Show you a demonstration of over-the-counter trading and products listed on the CQG front ends, and then I'll talk a little bit about what is yet to be built but coming soon and things that we're still really excited about rolling out to folks. So without further ado, I'll talk about a few of the opportunities that have come up for us. The very first move into the over-the-counter space for us was partnering with Nasdaq. The Nasdaq Futures Exchange had approached us with a challenge that they were having for their futures markets, which are relatively illiquid at times, and a lot of those transactions are done via block trades. And anytime they're trying to get significant size executed in an illiquid market, obviously there's greater exposure risk for their market makers and their participants. And so they wanted to come up with a way to transact in their markets really away from the market in an over-the-counter type facility. And so that is where we got started, building our own matching engine, really an exchange quality matching engine that would let us facilitate those transactions and match block trades away from the central limit order book at the exchange and then post those to the exchange for clearing on NFX. So that was our first entrance into the OTC space. And at the same time, we were having kind of parallel conversations with people in the physical commodities space who were also looking for ways to do a little bit more from a technology standpoint in terms of listing over-the-counter products, whether that be true over-the-counter products, things that don't trade on the exchanges. So stuff like fertilizer in the grain world and the ags world, or rock or feed for cattle, stuff like that. And then the ability to also display a cash price or a basis price out to end users that is reflective of the futures price, but not necessarily the futures price. And that might be something in the grain space where they're distributing basis price out to end farmers via a website, or we talk to some large commercial desks like metals desks that need to manage pricing out to their end customers basis things like credit risk. So they might widen the spread out to a customer depending on their credit risk. And all of that is done today really largely via the call-around market. And people wanted the ability to display this on a screen and make it much easier for their workflow to manage that kind of stuff out to their end customers without necessarily having all that overhead of calling around and trying to manage pricing via the phones. So that was the next piece that we really started working on. And then the last piece, which is not available yet, but is on our roadmap and kind of the final piece of over-the-counter trading on CQG, and that's posting OTC transactions to the relevant exchanges for clearing. So each exchange has their different over-the-counter transactions that they'll allow to post in terms of blocks and swaps and EFPs and crosses and things like that. That'll be something that we're working on later this year, but it's worth mentioning that it is on our OTC roadmap. So obviously, as I mentioned already, the first thing that we had to do to get into this space was create an ability to match transactions away from these centralized exchanges. And so we built an exchange quality matching core. It sits within our own infrastructure. And in the case where someone wants to use the CQG matching core, they're enabled to route through CQG before going to the exchange. And what happens is if orders are able to be matched internally, so if they fall under one entity and they go through the CQG matching core and a match is available, they will be matched and we will report back the fill to the users and nothing will ever go to the exchange. Obviously, if an order comes in, as you see in the diagram, from an FCM and there is not an internal order available, then it would just go directly to the exchange. There's not an internal match available under that entity. It goes to the exchange to be worked or filled accordingly. Now, another piece of this that we can do is in the diagram we have FCM ABC. If the first trader submits an order to sell 1 corn, it goes through the CQG matching core. Let's say there's not the other side available and it goes to work at the exchange. If while it's working at the exchange, an order to buy, a matching order to buy comes in, we will cancel that order working at the exchange. We get the exchange acknowledgement and then we fill those orders and match them internally. And again, the users get their fill just like they would an exchange order. So unfortunately, it's hard to demonstrate this because it looks exactly like it does when an order goes to the exchange. It's just matched on the CQG internalization matching core instead of the exchange matching engine. So without boring you too much further on the technology behind this, that's our CQG matching core and how we actually facilitate these over-the-counter transactions. In order to do that gracefully, obviously there's a lot of front-end work that we had to do as well. So I'm going to give a quick demo of each of these, but just really quickly I'll talk a little bit about what's possible right now. So this first image we have here is a configure bids and offers widget within CQG Desktop. And what I'm listing here, you see the product is feed barley. Obviously, this is not an exchange listed product anywhere. This is, for an example, would be like a grain elevator that in addition to managing risk for their producer customers through hedging, they're also buying and selling things. So they might be selling feed out to farmers in their area. And they wanted a way to be able to do that on a screen really easily. And not necessarily just over the phone or have them show up at the elevator site to buy feed. So in addition to having bid sheets on their website, they might also have what we're calling these flat priced over-the-counter transactions. So they can list that they're selling feed barley and put in a price for that, and a customer can come to their site and transact with them. The other thing that we can do, which was the example I was talking about before, in the metals space is create custom pricing on an exchange listed product. So it'll actually be based on an underlying product, and that's where we get kind of the originating price, and then you can widen the spread for various customers and risk profiles. So again, a lot of this is being used in the agricultural commodities space. In this window, you see I've got the ability to change and manage the basis. And so you can change the end price that the user sees so that they're getting the price that you want them to have. And that is a tradable basis price. So you could allow them to come to your website and go ahead and sell, in this case, yellow corn directly to you at the price that they're seeing on your site. And then the last image over here that I have is from what I was talking about with the block exchange that we created. This is a ticket to buy and sell OTC listed products. So I have a Brent crude block contract. It's not an exchange contract. It's a CQG OTC block contract that would be matched within the CQG matching core, and I can buy and sell block quantities via that. So without further ado, I am going to give a quick demonstration of both of these. So over here, I have CQG Desktop. If you've seen CQG Desktop before, what you're looking at today looks a little bit different because this is what we've built very specifically for the over-the-counter space. I have a bids and offers widget, and because the example we're looking at today was built largely for grain elevators, this tab shows me all of my locations. The tools are flexible enough, though, that it doesn't necessarily have to be locations. We're looking at this in areas where people might have customer profile types, so credit risk, right? They might have different groupings, and that can all be configured as needed with our partners if someone wants to use this a little bit differently. But for today, I've got all of my different locations on here. And hitting the plus button over here is going to open that ticket that we were looking at before. The products that you see here, these are pre-configured via kind of our back end. So we set these up on the back end for our customers. One of the things I'm going to talk about on the roadmap is being able to do that dynamically. But for right now, they're all in here. So with this location, here's all of the products that I can enable for people to transact with me. If I choose feed barley, that's going to be something that I'm flat pricing. So it might be something like boxed feed barley that my customers are looking to buy from me. And I can give it a delivery start. So I can say starting tomorrow and ending a month from now. You can come and pick up your boxed feed barley, or I'll deliver it to you. That expires a month from now. And I put in my flat price. So again, this is not based on anything listed on the exchange. This is a true over-the-counter transaction for a commodity that I'm listing. So I'm just going to go ahead and say flat price set at 100, add it. And it's not published yet. This is all still able to be managed by my system internally until I hit publish. And then that is going to go out to my customers who are enabled to see it. And we will create a CQG symbol for it. So I'm going to go ahead and publish. And you'll see now there is a symbol. So this is now a tradable symbol on CQG, and I can transact and buy feed barley from my grain elevator in this case. And those transactions will look just like the futures transactions do. So I can buy and sell these over-the-counter products, and I'll have an electronic record of it. I'll get matched, and it will look like I am taking care of that transaction. The other example I wanted to show was similar, but this is changing my basis price essentially. So in an example of yellow corn, let's say, I'm going to do yellow corn for, I don't know, a risk profile, risk 2. Delivery start, again, I get to pick delivery end. So these are the days I'll take delivery of this yellow corn. Expiration, my product source, so this one's going to be based on the Globex corn contract. That's where I'm getting my source pricing from. I choose my source month, so in this case I'll do July. And then I just add my basis. So in this one, let's do minus 30. And again, I'm going to want to publish that for it to be viewable and tradable. But once I publish that contract, it will also get a symbol, and now I have my yellow corn with a minus 30 basis that would be published out to the users enabled for, in this case, this particular location. But again, this is the kind of thing that we're fairly flexible in what can be configured. So whether that be location or risk profile or something like that, we continue to expand what's possible here, and we're excited to work with more and more desks that are looking for this capability. The other example that I wanted to show really quickly was executing that block contract. And this is in my integrated client platform. So for those familiar with integrated client, in the same way that I would look for a symbol by exchange, we have this CQG matching and CQG block exchange. And if I look for symbols under there, we've gone ahead and created some custom symbols, again, like herbicide and fertilizer, which would just be a true over-the-counter transaction that we can match. And then we also have these block contracts, which in this case are just working on the CQG exchange. These are not working on NFX, although we do have this capability for NFX. So my BFQBB is the contract I'm looking for, and I have this over here. and I can go ahead and buy and sell block contracts, again, away from an exchange. And if there's something available on the other side, I would get matched for that order. And I saw that that happened in that case. Again, matched internally on the CQG internal matching core. All right, so that is essentially what I wanted to show you today. As I mentioned, I mean, there's a lot of different conversations that we're having with desks that need more efficient ways to manage over-the-counter transacting, and we're excited. I think technology providers can certainly add a lot of value there. So we think this is something new and different that obviously people are really interested in, and we are thrilled to be working with some of our partners on it, and we're looking to work with others. So a couple of things that are coming up, as I mentioned before, dynamic contract creation. So rather than all of this being configured on the back end by CQG, giving you the ability in our CAST or customer account service tool to create new products and list them on the fly. So you could come in and say, I'm selling rock, or I'm selling metal edging, or something of that nature, list the contract and go ahead and flat price that to transact with your customers as you'd like to. We're also building out the ability to transact in quantities other than exchange contracts. So, traditionally CQG has been focused in financial futures and options and other asset classes. And so as we move more into the physical space and the over-the-counter space, things aren't necessarily trading in lots. So someone may not want to buy and sell one corn contract. They're looking at 5,000 bushels or pounds or tons in the energy space and things like that. So we are building out our tools to be flexible to transact based on the underlying commodity. You could actually come in and sell 7,500 bushels of corn and not necessarily one full contract. And then lastly, as I mentioned in the beginning, we are also working on the ability to post valid OTC transactions to the exchanges for clearing. So CME Clearport and other venues that allow over-the-counter trading and have specified order types that can happen, whether it be blocks or crosses or ESPs or what have you. We're working on those in the UI so that we can go ahead and facilitate that on the front end and then post it into those exchanges for clearing. And that is everything that I wanted to cover today. We have a little time for Q&A. So if anyone has questions, feel free to use the Q&A feature in the WebEx meeting, and I will be happy to answer those. I have a question about the ability to transact in partial quantities. So as I was mentioning quantities other than exchange contracts, that also means that we're working on the flexibility to handle the hedge for those. So if you came in and wanted to sell 7,500 bushels of corn, for example, obviously that's not two full contracts at Chicago Board of Trade, and so we're working on our hedge capabilities to allow you to decide at what thresholds you would want to go ahead and hedge at the exchange. So maybe 7,500 is your threshold, and once you're halfway there, then you want to go ahead and submit that hedging order. Maybe it's a little bit further than that, but we are building out tools to allow you to figure out exactly when you want to hedge based on partial quantities coming in. All right, I'll hang on another minute for questions, but otherwise, if anything comes up and you have questions, you can reach out to your CQG account manager or to our CQG Solutions team, which can be reached at the letter C and the number 2 at CQG.com, C2 at CQG.com. Oh, I guess I have other questions coming in. All right, I think that's it. Okay, thanks so much, everybody.